Hi, I'm Praneeth, and welcome to my show, The Active Hour, where we discuss health and fitness, nutrition, and the blueprint to enhance your vitality. In St. Louis, they call him the fucking modern day Willy Wonka. He's a third generation chocolatier running two iconic family brands, Chocolate, and Bissingers, and somehow still finding ways to make chocolate feel new. This conversation isn't just about sweets. It's about reinvention, legacy, and how he achieved 140% growth and exponentially scaling the company. Dan Abel Jr. came in real, and this one goes fucking deep. Hey Dan, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Last time we spoke, you were kind of swimming in chocolate dipped strawberries. How is the rush right now after the Valentine's rush? Or do you ever have a time off or a season off in this chocolate industry?
That's a good question. So, we go pretty quickly from Christmas to Valentine's Day right into Easter. So we're very
Yeah.
much into Easter right now. Right after Easter, there's Mother's Day.
Okay.
And then the summertime allows us to do a lot of things. We do a lot of product planning and a lot of production for the fall season. So
Okay.
there's times of the year where there's not product going out the door all the time. But as far as the manufacturing facility is concerned, we're busy 12 months of the year.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So if given a chance like a secret golden box, what
Yeah.
would that be for Bissingers?
That's a great question. I think there's one assortment called the Carl Bissinger collection
Okay.
that is pretty much a collection of all of our finest pieces, and then there's another collection called the Imperial, and that some of the larger pieces that we have are in the Imperial. Those two collections are my favorite at Bissinger's, and
Okay.
because they have a little bit of everything: the French creams, the European truffles, the caramels,
Wow, so
uh,
delicious.
some fruit in there. So it's a really balanced mixed. I like between the two of those, and I go back and forth depending on the season.
And what's your favorite out of all of those? Let's say top two.
Top two, I love I would say caramels and
Okay.
English almond toffee are my top two. But the thing is that answer could change in like 2 weeks just because of
Yeah,
the flavor that hits me.
yeah. And when you were a kid, did you ever imagine that you would run this 350-year-old empire?
I mean, the I grew up in the chocolate business. My parents owned a candy company, so we have two chocolate companies today, and
Yeah.
there's no doubt that even at 6 and 7 years old, I wanted to be in the business. I absolutely
Okay.
loved it. It was never forced on us. It was just happened to be where my brother, sister, and I we all went into the business.
Okay.
But Bissinger's at the time was the competitor, and so I never thought
Yeah.
we would own Bissinger's and be running that side of
Yeah.
it. So that was kind of the surprise.
That's very nice. So you mentioned that you've always wanted to be in this field. Like, tell us a little bit about that wanting to be in this sector and how was this experience of, buying out the businesses because it started I think around like 1668 way in back in Europe,
Yes,
right? When the French kings also had all this from Bissingers and they even called Bissingers one of the best chocolates out there back in. Talk us through this growing up process of wanting to be in the and then when you kind of bought Bissingers, what is your
yeah.
reaction and your emotion?
Back when I was really young, we had one. Everything was in one retail store. So a candy
Yeah.
kitchen, retail store, office, warehouse was all one small building. It was about 3,500 square feet. So today
Okay.
we're doing construction, but once construction is complete, we'll be in about 90,000 square feet.
Wow,
And
that's
we
awesome.
went from,
Yeah.
yeah, so from 3,500 square feet to 90,000 square feet has been like the 20-year difference.
Okay.
And the small little operation, which at the time felt big to us, but that operation, you we would make candy with a really good team. We would wait on customers, because there was five of us probably working there. So, if
Yeah.
there's two or three customers in the store, you'd stop what you're doing in the kitchen, you go wait on customers, and you kind of get to know everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of the customers, and everybody was so friendly. And people would come in, they say, "Hey, I'm here for an anniversary gift," or "I'm here for a birthday gift," and
Yeah.
it was like a positive experience, or "I'm here for a wedding." And so it was always just, you always left work feeling really good and excited, and we always created things in the kitchen. There's
Yeah.
always a lot of activity. Like we tried different things. And for me, when I was getting out of school and officially went in full time, my sister and I started knocking on doors and cold calling for wholesale accounts. And this was when
Okay.
fax machines were still
Yeah.
the means of delivering purchase orders to us. And like
Yeah.
every morning, I'd rush to work to go check the fax machine. And if there
Okay.
was a
Yeah.
fax purchase order in the fax machine, that to
Yeah.
me was the biggest experience, like the most exciting thing. And
Yeah.
then we would go pack the candy and make it. So it's all of a sudden we have this order, but there's five of us, so it was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go make it. My sister Christina, you go pack it, and then my brother, you go,
Okay.
ship it. Like
Yeah.
and in the meantime, we had a retail clerk that would open the store, and then my dad would pay bills and order material, like do everything as a business owner would do. So it was this great, and my mom would come in and help, especially if we had a big order, she'd come down and help us. So this big
Yeah.
collaborative effort, and we did everything. And then it was just, I always say it's like building a snowball. So you start with this like a snowball really small, and you just keep rolling it and rolling it and rolling. Eventually it starts to get bigger. And that's how wholesale was. Like when we had my first year, I was like, if we can get 10 wholesale accounts, how cool would that be? And then, in some cases now we're getting 10 a day. Um,
Wow. Okay.
and so the difference between, we used to have a folder for every single customer. Now it's all in our ERP system, everything.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have I wouldn't have enough filing cabinets today, but every time we had a wholesale account, we would take this folder and we'd put we'd have them fill out paperwork. We'd staple that to the inside. I mean, there was a whole process that we did. And so we just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then as we added more, there's more, more equipment, more staff, more square footage, and it kept growing over the
Mhm.
years. And then we really got lucky from about 2014 to 2017, where we found a lot of really good national customers. And because of that, it was kind of the accelerator to really add square footage to the manufacturing facility. So in 2012, we moved into the space that we're in now, which was a
Okay.
big jump from us. It was 30,000 square foot addition. Um,
That's
and
awesome.
then, so we went from 3,500 to 30,000. And then we started buying some equipment, and we were comfortable making those large capital investments because some big accounts gave us a lot of volume. And so we were really starting to grow into our space and hiring some really good people. And it was equipment people, and then the next thing was another facility. So in 2017, we decided it's time for a second facility, there was a building down the street for sale. So that worked out. And then we figured that was going to be like a 20-year plan. We would grow into that space. Well, then right around the corner in 2019, January of 2019, we heard a rumor that Bissingers was
Yeah.
for sale.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Like 6 months after we bought just the second facility. And, there was
Yeah.
this. So we were kind of curious, because I was like, I'm surprised they didn't just reach out to us directly, before they went to market. How could they be, so maybe it's not true. So then we actually, after hearing rumors, we just picked up the phone and called them and said,
Okay.
because we knew their team really well. It's a St. Louis, it's a big, small city. So it's a small town with a lot of people. You get to know
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah. And, in your category. So they said, yeah, no, it's true. We're going for sale, and we'll have a deck over if you're interested in the next few months. And so,
Yeah.
January went by, February went by, most of March went by, and we didn't really hear anything. So we just figured maybe they went in a different direction with the sale. And then, we 60-ish%, 55 to 60% of our entire year is
Okay.
November, December. So when you're, in order, and they're, very much a gifting business. So their Bissingers is even higher than that. It's like 65% of the business is November,
Wow.
December combined. So
Okay.
the supply chain, the length of pre-COVID, because it got, worse in COVID, but the pre-COVID days that you need to be in planning mode for Christmas in May and June. Like you're not making
So many
spaghetti.
months in advance.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because tins come up from
Yeah.
overseas, and then planning, supply chain.
Yeah.
Part of it too. They had different vendors. They had different vendor relationships. Some of the vendors, like at Bissingers, are from Europe, and
Okay.
so supply chain is a really long process. And we knew that at chocolate that it was in the middle of March, and we finally heard back, and we said, well, we really have a 2-month window to make this happen because we can't close on this company in September and expect to survive Christmas. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work. So there was a lot of a very quick, diligence process on our end. Now on the flip side, there was no. We felt that we knew their retail environment, we knew the product, we knew,
Mhm.
we did a lot of deep dives, and so we got there. It was a fairly smooth transaction in 2019. The merging the businesses together from bringing their team over to our team
Okay.
and kind of trying to, there was a lot of redundancies. Like there's two packaging managers. So we said, okay, well, we don't want to get rid of a packaging manager. We want to say, how can our team and your team work together? And how can we coexist? So there was a lot of that, moving
Understood.
equipment over, a lot of equipment, designing and printing 3 catalogs, one Thanksgiving and 2 Christmases of something we've never
Yeah.
done before. Uh,
Yeah.
so there, I mean, it was like it was like the adrenaline every day. We'd come into work and be like, all right, here we go. Let's run 2 businesses, and uh,
Yeah.
it was so much fun, but we really didn't stop and think, stop to breathe to think about it until 2020. Like we didn't really, our first goal was buy this company, get the deal done,
Okay.
uh, and then make sure the customer experience is perfect. We didn't want the stores to have a dip in pack product. We didn't want the catalog to run out of products. We wanted the catalog to arrive on time. We wanted the customer experience. We wanted the customers not to even know there was an ownership change.
I
And
see. Okay.
that was really important to keep, maintain course. So maintaining, the course was us putting double the effort in, and then coming into 2020 was this refresher before COVID, and everything came. We kind of, like January was okay. Let's really breathe and take a second to
Okay.
see what we just did and see what we just bought. And then it was just like, wow, there's nothing like it. It's 350 years and
Yeah.
1668. It was actually the King of France that appointed them the Confesseur Imperial,
Exactly. Yeah.
confectioner to the empire. And it really took 6 months to sink in. And that was really, really the amazing part of the whole process. And that's when, then I joked, I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Then COVID happened and it just went,
Oh
but
shit. Yeah.
COVID was actually really good for the brand. Our online business was tremendous and really grew. So that was good for customer acquisition at the time.
Wow, that's nice. There's so much of good information. So you just spoke about how online kind of grew after COVID, right? So how did that modernization happen from the legendary company, even older than United States, right? And they
Mhm.
had a certain way of doing this, packaging their chocolates and stuff like that, and they're probably all retail. But then how did this transformation happen, where you had to do manage 2 companies, everything kind of online, and kind of be up par with the e-commerce that's in the new age?
Yeah, so good question. Bissingers actually started a catalog in the early 70s. And so they
Okay,
had retail stores and wholesale, but the catalog was the main business.
I
So
see. Okay,
because of that, they had a catalog customer service team. They had a software that, order management
that's very
software.
nice.
We had a
Yeah,
warehouse team. And so we very much knew that, we had retail stores, they had retail stores. So we figured, okay, we know retail, they know retail. We're going to, merge and we're going to do more of retail. And then they had
yeah,
wholesale, we had wholesale. They said, well, okay, we have, we're fairly good at wholesale. So we're going to do more of wholesale just with different products. So those two things weren't um, the different, it was the catalog division that was the exciting thing for me because it was a new adventure. It's a new opportunity to tackle. But what happened was, so they had a 50-year head start in catalog online. Catalog and online we consider as the same
okay,
business unit, and it's now kind of got coined the phrase direct to consumer. It used to be called catalog, then it went mail order, then it went online. But I think direct to consumer kind of encompasses experience now. And so when COVID happened, though, so we were our foundation of Bissingers was set for catalog business and online business. But when COVID
Yeah.
happened, everything would exploded online because the department stores had to close, the retail stores had to close. So if you
Yeah.
wanted your Easter bunny or chocolate marshmallow eggs, you had to go buy it online. And other local regional candy companies couldn't handle the demand. Some of them,
I
if they
see.
were doing 20 orders a day and they went to 60 orders a day, at the 61st order, they said, we saw candy stores
Yeah.
closing their websites. Well,
Yeah.
we had our entire retail team, which we had 6 retail stores at the time, basically put out of business because the retail stores were forced to close for a couple
Yeah.
months.
Exactly.
So I kept telling them, I said, come to the production facility. We'll give you something to do. I didn't know what, but we've
Yeah.
never laid off an employee. We've never sent someone home.
Yeah.
We truly appreciate if someone's living paycheck to paycheck or close to it. We can't just be like, oh, there's no work for you. Stay home for 2 weeks. That's not fair to
Yeah.
them. So we just said, we'll figure it out. Come into work. We'll
That's so
figure it out.
nice. Yeah.
Well, online exploded. And so retail managers were helping answer phones, shipping orders. We were all making chocolate bunnies, and it kept every single person in the company busy. And from 2019 to 2022, we grew a division that had been 50 plus years old by about 165%. So
Wow, that's
it was a
amazing. Yeah.
massive
Yeah.
explosion on the online business. And quite frankly, we never expected it to grow that big that fast.
Yeah.
Uh, which is amazing. It's grown since 2022 as well, and we really see the Bissinger direct to consumer division as really the heart of the brand. Because if you go into a retail boutiques or you go find a product on shelf at other wholesale accounts, which is both of those are extremely important to us, and both of those are really growing. But we feel at the end of the day, you always come back to the website, whether you order online it or not. The website could just be a path to find the next retail store, because now Bissingers is in a couple thousand specialty retailers nationwide. So a lot of
Yeah.
times people just get to the website and get a catalog so they can go find out where to go find the product, which is great too, or find a retail boutique. But we feel that direct to consumer online experience is really the heart of the brand.
Yeah, that's so nice, and it's very nice to know that there was like 160% jump. Example, Amazon and Artisan Chocolates are probably one of your competitors, right? How did you make that percentage jump of 160, even when you had competitors like this who were really good and fast shipping?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. One is
Yeah.
we took our entire tech stack and started over. So in the middle of, by 2022, we felt that our current infrastructure was hitting max capacity. So we put in, brand new ERP order management system, which was a major
Nice.
6-figure
Yeah.
overhaul, brand new enterprise e-commerce websites. We created a Bissinger's mobile app. So you can actually have a mobile app,
Okay.
ordering app on your iPhone or Android device. We updated the website, updated photography, put additional photos so you can see the product, you can see the packaging. So the only thing we can't do, we can't be like Amazon and have 100 distribution centers across the country plus and distribute same day. We know we can't do that. And as a specialty chocolate brand, there's extra care that goes into, especially with warm weather season. We
Exactly.
pack each
Yeah.
product in coolers and ice packs and wrap the product to make sure it arrives in perfect condition. But a lot of people, because we're such a gift giving company, they kind of have this, oh, if my brother's birthday is next week, I should go order it now. So there is that calendar in your mind of the holidays and the gift giving season that helps. But being that we're centrally located in the United States, we can ship about 80% of the country in 2 days, which is really nice.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And like you just said, right, the luxury brands kind of like when it kind of exploded. How did Bissingers adapt to that change with various apps and the online change that you did, right? Explain us a little bit more about that digital first era and kind of adapting to that ERP system and what kind of contracting software that you had to use to amplify this.
Yeah. So one of the things we had was we had an order management software and an ERP system. So the ERP system did all the manufacture was the manufacturing software, and the order management was if you called up the customer service and you said, "Hi, my name is
Okay.
Todd Smith, and I want to place an order." We'd pull up your file. Those two didn't talk to each other. So the first thing we needed is to make sure we get one new system that could do both.
Okay.
At the time, and I still believe it wholeheartedly today, was we believe that we need to be on the cloud instead of managing
Okay.
the system
Yeah.
ourselves. So, especially with cyber activity and power and everything, like a company
Yeah.
our size should not be managing our own ERP system on a server. I think that's at least we're not. Our IT staff is like, please don't ever do. So
Yeah.
we wanted to go to the cloud for
Yeah.
that. We also wanted instant access from our ERP, from the websites to get data to our ERP system to get data to the warehouse. So we run a perpetual inventory. So if we make 100, gift boxes and two sell on the website right away, we're updating real time. There's 98 left to sell. If one of the stores takes 48 units, now we're
Yeah.
deducting that. And then we have low stock levels. So if we start to it automatically will email us or send an urgent reminder that you need to go reproduce this product because we're not a distributor,
Yeah.
we're a manufacturer. So we have 7 artisan production lines. And so we don't mass produce anything. We just have a team of 3 per
Okay.
line. And so there's days when, on a Monday morning, you come into work, you have a
Yeah.
production schedule for the whole week. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, 86 boxes of half-dipped glacé apricots sell in
Yeah.
a 4-hour period. We get a low stock level come Monday afternoon. We go right on the schedule.
Yeah.
Tuesday morning, we're making apricots. And to us,
That's awesome.
that's so
Yeah.
important because
Yeah.
as a luxury brand, you don't upset your customers. And, we are, the customer, if they want to order a box of half-dipped glacé apricots for their brother's birthday next week, they want to order it today. And so
Yeah.
keeping everything, turning over the inventory quickly for freshness is so important. But keeping the product in stock as the customers want it is also really important.
That's so nice. And I would like to know a little bit more about when chocolate bought Bissingers,
Mhm.
and how are you kind of maintaining now? What is your main revenue? Where is it coming from? Is it still, how do you divide it? Like,
It's about
can
50
I?
50.
Yeah. Okay.
Chocolate, at the
Yeah.
time was bigger than Bissingers, and they've grown too, but Bissingers has grown faster lately,
Faster. Yeah.
only because of the big .com explosion and some other wholesale channels. But they they're about equal today. Um,
Okay.
in 5 years from now, if I had to guess, I'm not sure. But they both serve two different markets, and so because of that, I think the growth is going to be steady on both sides.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, I hope both of these become really, really big. And what's that one decision or a couple of decisions that you took which kind of made a significant business?
Oh, it's been so many.
Yeah. Well, top two that comes to your mind.
I think the tech stack overhaul was one of the most monumental because it
Okay.
touches every single part of the business, and because of that, the warehouse, the production floor, the sales department, all of the above runs smoother, runs better.
Okay.
And it was a 6 or 7 month project, and we have 25 or 26 users running that system today. Um, so
Okay.
it's a beast of a
Yeah.
system. It runs in the Oracle network, and that to us was really great because the businesses didn't really talk to each other before, and so that was a game changer. The other one
Yeah.
would be we made some packaging changes. We did packaging rebranded, and that
Okay.
really took a huge spike at Bissinger's. So we kind of rebranded the wholesale product line and then kind of changed the standard classic gifting product line for the retail and branded, and that
Yeah.
was a game changer. And that because the way the current packaging was set up was either or for retail only or for wholesale, and we wanted to do both but elegantly. And so the packaging overhaul we did, I think, took us to the next level.
That's very nice to know. And are there any lessons from failures? So many times we kind of work on something, it fails. When you retrospect, you kind of take it and
all the
develop that?
time.
In which way?
Yeah, I mean, we want, as we were going through packaging, this wasn't the most, the biggest or the most expensive failure we've had, but I feel like we
Yeah.
learned the most from this. We were doing a packaging upgrade, and at one time we said every product is going to get a packaging upgrade in some way.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we created this new product line or this new style of packaging. It went across the board, but there's this one solid chocolate 1 pound bar that we
Okay.
changed the packaging for. And it goes on sale a couple times a year, and we sell a lot of it. It's, quite a bit of volume, especially when it's on sale. And we took it to more of a wholesale product box with a picture on it, and more branded, it looked like a giant chocolate bar, like a giant 1 pound chocolate bar instead of a gift box of chocolate.
Okay.
And internally, everybody thought it was a great idea. We have a review process on the chocolate team, and then on the Bissingers team, and everyone seemingly thought, yeah, this looks great. Well, everybody but the customer. At first, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's such a legacy customer. Some of the customers go back decades at Bissingers, which is so amazing. So sometimes when you change a lot really quickly, you get a little bit of a backlash, but then it smooths out. Well, this was something where it just kept lingering. We still, after about 3 or 4 months, it just kept, people really didn't like it. And, so
Okay.
we had some customers that, I want you to tell the owner you ruined this gift, the chocolates. It was so like,
They're
it was
probably
so,
emotionally connected to it.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I finally talked to a customer, one lady that bought 20 of them. And she said,
Yeah.
you know, this is a luxury company, and I give these out as gifting, and this new packaging is nice, but it doesn't
Yeah.
look like a giftable packaging. And so
Okay.
we took a step back, and I ended up throwing away about 30,000 boxes, the new
Oh,
boxes,
that's a
went back to
lot
the
of.
old style, and I
Yeah.
marketed back in the gift box, back in the scales exploded. And so
Yeah.
we learned that, you know, Bissinger's is the Bissingers doesn't need on every product. Sometimes packaging design and wholesale is marketable. You put a picture on the front, you put some romance copy on the back, and so where before it was just a standard gold gift box with the logo. That's what they wanted. So that was so there was some oversteps we made on the packaging and design side, and
Okay.
I'm sure we made a bazillion other mistakes, but that was the one that, as a direct to consumer brand, the customers can talk to you almost in real time and tell you
That's
they
very nice.
don't
Yeah.
want it. And so we really listened to that one.
That's so nice. I would like to go back to the scaling process, and you mentioned how you, your brothers and sisters came in, and your mom would come in and kind of help you out. Tell us a little bit more about any hardest part in that part of your life when you had to scale, because, like you said, you didn't get success overnight. It took many years, a lot of decisions back and forth, probably a lot of sleepless nights too, is what I'm guessing, because in order to scale, you need to work hard. Talk us through that hardest time as an entrepreneur setting up this product to scaling to this level today.
That's a good question. There was a time in so from we have now we're running 7 production lines and then 5 or 6
That's
packing lines
awesome.
behind it. So the production lines are the
Yeah.
main lines that make the candy. We had one line from 2004 to 2011. We had this one line, and then when we moved into this
Yeah.
facility, we bought a second line. So we were running two. By
Okay.
2013, we were growing and had maxed out the first 2 lines, and so we decided to get a third one. And all 3 of them did the same thing. It was a chocolate enrobing line, so you can take a caramel. It goes
Okay.
through that waterfall of chocolate. It's kind of like the I Love Lucy episode style, if you've seen that, where there's a
Yeah.
conveyor
Yeah.
belt of chocolates coming off the end. So we had gotten to 3 of those, and 2 years later, we were on this trajectory of just make more, make more, make more, make as much as we can sell, or sell as much as we can make, type thing. And so we were getting tight on capacity again, starting running overtime, running the weekends. And I said, okay, let's go hire another staff and put it. And so
Okay.
at first we said, let's go to line 4, the same thing. And but then I pivoted and I said, what if we do a molding line? And
Yeah.
my dad said, well, what would we sell with that?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I think it would take away, demand from the enrobing line. What would you
Yeah.
make on the molding line that you can't make on the enrobing line? I said, probably peanut butter would be one thing. Well, do we sell a lot of peanut butter? No, not really.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not going to work. And I kind of, we always kind of have this internal thing where I try to get my siblings on board. So then
Yeah.
we're just, it's like we're just selling it to our parents instead of just, instead of me having to sell it to everybody. So I'm trying to go
Yeah.
through it, and I was like, well, we can make chocolate bars. Well, do you have any customers that want chocolate bars now?
Yeah.
And I said, well, we can make, different shaped molded pieces. And then, well,
So
how
nice.
much are the molds? I said, well, it's about $5,000 to $7,000 per shape. And he says, well, okay, well, so how many shapes do you want? Every shape is
Yeah.
going to, and so he was finding every reason for us not to do this. And they were all legit reasons. And then I just
Yeah.
said, yeah, I got a price quote. Well, how much is the machine? Well, it's about three
Mm.
times as much as the enrobing line. He kind of looked at me and said, so you want to spend three times as much.
Yeah.
You don't have a single product that you run on it or a single recipe to
Yeah.
run on it. And I said, yeah, I just think it's the right move. And there was probably a little bit more selling to it than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we got the demo, we talked to a couple people, and, it was an industry I felt like had opportunity, that side of the industry. So at the end of the day, the risk was taken.
Yeah.
And, for my dad to sign off on it, then we go to the bank and get the financing. But he knew that the bank already was ready to give us financing on a new piece of equipment. It was just for us to kind of choose which one. So I needed to get him to sign off. And I didn't really have the greatest.
Yeah.
It was just like, no, I think we can do this and be successful. I'll figure it, because it took a year to build, made in Switzerland. So it's, very far away. I said,
Wow.
I can figure it
So
out
much
in a
to do.
year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in 2015, we ended up doing it.
Okay.
We have since bought two more lines. The third one, so
Yeah.
machine line 4 is on order right now. It's coming in from Switzerland. And to this
So
day now, those molding lines are about 75% of our total volume of the plant. And
that's
it
so awesome. Yeah.
transformed everything. And it probably would have been the kiss of death for me had I been wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you can't walk, because these things are built into the building. It's not like you can be like,
Yeah.
buy a car and be like, it wasn't for me, send it back. I
Yeah.
mean, they actually build them into the building. They're massive. And, luckily that was my motivation. So we got into trying chocolate bars with them, and the chocolate bars were very successful. And then we got into molded pieces. And I mean, so we have probably half our product line is from that side of the building now. And,
Okay.
but yeah, at least 75% of our volume. Um, and we pivoted, and that was the best decision we've ever made on a manufacturing level. And I can't now, of course, I have so many mistakes I've made over the years, but none of them amount
Yeah.
to the success of I
It's
made
like
a lot of
yeah.
$10,000 mistakes, but I've never made a $500,000 mistake. And
Yeah.
this could have been a $500,000 mistake. Um, but it paid off. And so,
Paid off.
after the first one in 2016, we bought the second one in 2017, the third one in 2018. And now we have one
So
on order
inspiring.
that's coming in 2025. So unbelievable with what that did for the business. And it really was, at that point, my dad just saying, like, because it was one of those things I had just researched and researched and researched. And had I had to submit a
Yeah.
business proposal to him, it would have been 50 pages. I had, and I think he got to that point. He goes, well, I think he's got it, but I'm
Yeah.
going to make him earn it.
Yeah.
And then that was transformative. And then it's like the world knew overnight. We had calls left and right. Hey, can you do my molded pieces? Can you do this? Can you
Yeah.
do this? And I was just like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
So inspiring. And I think you would call this as your most pivotal point in your life, right?
At that point,
How did you? Yeah, at that point. But how did you make that decision? Because I said it's like $500,000, probably three times more expensive than at that time of what
yeah.
the furniture you had and the equipment you had. What what series of decisions that you had to take and kind of research that you had to do to reach to this point? Like, yes, I'm very sure. Because,
You
when you
know,
had so many people asking you, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" At some point, you would feel like, "Yeah, well, I don't know." But what was that confidence and the series of decisions that you took was like, "Yeah, this is it."
so I think I can probably give you an analogy that like outside of chocolate, like for example, I'm not
Yeah.
a car guy. I love driving
Yeah,
cars.
absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't fix a car. Like if all of a sudden smoke comes out of the engine, would have no idea what to
Yeah.
do. But say I wanted to dabble in cars, I feel
Okay.
like my level of research on that particular moment was like me learning how to take apart an engine and put it back together. Like I just
That's
completely
fantastic.
felt, it was nonstop around the clock, learning everything there is to know about it and trying to take a better overall picture of what the industry is looking for and asking. And I just felt that this is the time to do it. This is the right time. If we just kept enrobing, and now we have bought more enrobers since then, and that part of the business has really, really grown for us. But the I just felt that if we kept doing the same thing, we were
Okay.
growing at about 10% a year, but as a much smaller company,
Yeah.
our growth rate last year was 25% on much
Awesome.
bigger
Yeah.
volume. And we just couldn't
Yeah.
do that. We would need like 12 enrobing lines today to hit the capacity that we want. So it's,
Yeah.
it just made sense to me. And once I got to that point where I felt like I could see it backwards, forwards, upside down, sideways, then I have kind of mastered it, like you'd feel if you could take apart an engine and put
Mhm.
it back together. And that's
Yeah.
how I felt with that machine.
Yeah. That's so inspiring.
I mean,
And in
I probably wouldn't be here telling this story today if this failed,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
wouldn't even let me work. So this
Yeah.
was,
That's
yeah, because that $500,000, like the next one was bigger. And then the third one we put in was 3 times the size. So it was like,
yeah.
a much bigger, much bigger.
Yeah. Luckily, it worked out. Otherwise, you would have
Yeah.
got screwed.
But we knew we bought the third one so big because the first two,
Yeah.
so that one was, a little bit less risk, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So inspiring. And when it comes to family business, a lot of people think, it's family business. It's probably his dad's money. It's so easy. Let's talk about the myth and the hardship that goes into the family business. Even though, let's say, your dad gave you X amount of dollars, and it's still up to you to make it X plus two or X plus three.
Yeah, he didn't.
And it,
He told us if we need to.
yeah,
He told us
yeah,
when we graduated college that he
yeah,
said right now it looks like our going rate in our candy kitchen's $10 an hour,
yeah,
and that's what I'm paying you. He goes, if you want more
yeah,
than $10 an hour, go build the
yeah,
business. That was it. There was no,
exactly.
yeah. So
So from, yeah,
we had
sorry, go ahead.
no budget to do anything. I said, well, we can go to a trade show. How much is the trade show? $4,000. No.
Yeah,
Well, why not? This is how we're going to grow the business. I don't care. Go figure it out. Until you can
yeah,
get, X amount of customers on your own, we're not,
awesome. Yeah,
so everything was do it with no
yeah,
budget and get it right. And, it was on the line. And, the, I would say the big thing that my sister, brother, and I learned, which luckily this company allows this. I'm sure not every family business can fit this template, but we all liked different parts of the business. We
okay, that's
all
nice. Yeah,
do different things in the business. And because of that, we don't really butt heads ever. And so my
that's
sister
great.
handles payroll and, accounting and, a lot of the retail stores where I'm under national sales and manufacturing. So, she'll come into my office and say, hey, any new customers come in lately? And I'll say, oh yeah, we're working on this one, this one, and this one, because her domain is the local retail and payroll. And so it's not like we're both fighting for customers or both fight, and my brother loves being in the candy kitchen and making candy and really getting his hands in it. And so he doesn't come up and say, well, I'm going to go sell wholesale today. You need to,
Yeah.
get out of my way type thing. So because of that dynamic, it really has made it seamless for us.
Yeah, so beautiful. I was about to ask that. How do you take decision or kind of split work between you, your brother, and your sister?
Yeah, and part of it is like we just have different personalities. Like my sister's on vacation this week, and so I'm
Yeah.
doing the accounting for her. And
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I sit at her desk, and as checks come in and et cetera, I'm reconciling the bank, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's just my mind is
Yeah.
I'm just not a left brain mind. She's so you know she's so
Yeah.
disciplined to that and has that down to a science and has it such a system. She can do it with her eyes closed. Where me, I'm looking at a white box and I'm trying to, work on the next design for it and the next holiday
Yeah.
collection. And then, but if I said, to her, go redesign this packaging, she would return a white box to me. So we just have different kind of, one's left brain, one's right brain, one's kind of, so we luckily we're similar. We're siblings, but we,
Yeah.
we have all of
Different
those
personality.
really strong work ethic, but we like different things, and our kind of our mind wants us to do different things.
Yeah, it's so nice that you also have such good rapport. When you started, when you and your siblings started this business with way less capital, because you just mentioned your dad didn't give you that all the capital, and the very first few years would have been really hard. What kept you motivating? What go into this full time scale it? Because so many times you would have felt like tired or
Well, yeah.
demotivated. Think of it like example. I want to build a better body for my health, or I want to thing. It's very natural to feel demotivated. You don't see the results coming in. You got to keep waiting for it, and especially when it's starting something in the entrepreneurship, you're obviously building it for long term. But when you don't see the results immediately, but you still have to keep going. Talk us through that emotion. Talk us through that willpower and motivation.
That's a great question. So my dad started the business with nothing. He had apprenticed as a
Yeah.
candy maker. He had no, he had financed everything he had from his car to
Okay.
his, and
Yeah.
so it was make or break for him. And he worked open to close, and over
Wow. Yeah.
15, 20 years, really built it into something great. Strong
Yeah.
reputation in St. Louis and well known. And as we got into the business, there was that feeling of like, it wasn't handed to him. He created something great, and it was our job
Okay.
to take it to the next level. And it was so I felt that level of respect that my parents started, and that really weighed on me. And because it wasn't making a ton of money where I could just have an unlimited spending account and go do whatever I want. Come
Yeah.
into work at 10 and leave at 3.
Yeah.
So you had to be in the business and build it, but it also had a great reputation. And one of the things that I feel like kept me going and motivated is, as selling,
Yeah.
you hear 10 times as many no's as yeses, and that can be debilitating. But people always, I would say never say never, but the majority
Yeah.
of people never complained about the quality.
Okay.
Everybody loved the quality. And I can't remember the only time we really have customer complaints is like when the product is, the box is damaged, and like the
Okay.
shipping box is damaged or kicked around or gets wet from delivering, and then the product is damaged or it melts, or the it's really handling issues. But I've never, I mean, 1 in 1,000 people say I didn't like this. It's so rare. So the quality is something that was so high. When we would hear a no from a customer, as we're either at a trade show or sending
Okay.
samples, it was never about the quality. It was either, oh, I want a smaller box, this is a bigger box, or I want a box with a picture on it, this one doesn't have one, or I need it was more about the packaging size wasn't right for them. And that's because we were a retailer, we were learning wholesale on the fly. So then
Hmm.
I said, okay, let's start over. Everybody says they want a smaller, they want something for $10 or less. So let's go create that.
Yeah.
Our box
Yeah.
was 20, and so we went to go, and all of a sudden the $10 box started selling like crazy. So I said, okay, let's create 5 flavors of this. And so we were
Awesome.
learning
Yeah.
and taking customer feedback in real time, and then just go recreating. I had self-taught myself Photoshop because I wanted to learn it.
Okay. That's
And
nice.
so
Yeah.
there was no budget for designer or marketing on that point. So I went,
Okay.
did online courses,
Yeah.
did a community college course in Photoshop, and learned. So we created our own
Nice.
website and flyers and
Okay.
Photoshop and Illustrator, and did our first catalogs internally. And so I would just go change it. I would go change the packaging or go change the art. And then we just kept tweaking and tweaking and tweaking to learn. So no's really were not debilitating. It was constructive criticism. It was, the no meant change it to this, change it to this.
Yeah.
And if you looked at generation one to, gosh, whatever generation we're on
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
probably like 12 or 13,
Yeah.
you would say, "Oh my God." About the same. The funny thing is, the caramel never changed.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
toffee never changed. It was the packaging, it was the pack style, it was everything
Mhm.
else. But we never needed to change the recipe because what my dad created and started with was
Yeah.
amazing. It still is.
Okay. And then how was when it came to vision? Where like everything is about numbers. When it came to numbers, when it kind of drilled down to vision, what kept you more focused? What kept you more hungry to say, okay, I'm getting this amount of revenue. I want to make it X plus two, but I want to know more about that vision too. What kept your hunger and
Well,
motivation?
it's the same thing. Like every year we wake up and we just feel like, how do we top last year? You know,
Yeah,
there's and growth is expensive.
yeah,
It
yeah,
takes a and so we have my brother, sister, and I are still young. I mean, we from 37 to 42, so we still feel that we can keep investing, and I feel like businesses all take different or have different
yeah.
wavelengths. Like you're going growth years, and then you kind of pull back a little bit. You don't coast, but you don't go build a new building. We're in the middle of a
Yeah,
multi-million dollar factory expansion right now. Well, I
yeah,
can guarantee you, well, never say never, but
yeah.
my thought is that in 2026 we are not going to be doing another factory expansion. So this one should hold us over for a while, but then
Okay.
we increase our marketing spend or you increase your innovation spend. So we're in such hyper growth mode, and growth is very
Hmm.
expensive. But we we really are very aggressive with debt. So as we bring on debt, we pay it down. We try to overpay. We try to make sure that if we're going to take on this level of debt, that we can pay it down quickly. We
Okay.
don't like, and then we can go on to the next thing. So a lot of things we like to pay out in 5 years or less. And if we can't pay it out in 5 years or less, it's not something we want to do.
Got
Some longer term capital when it comes to real estate, that can go longer for us because it's better to amortize a little bit longer anyways. But if it's going to be a short term equipment financing or something like that, we like to do in 5 or less. And those are kind of the barriers that we put on ourselves. So I just think
you.
it's not ego, it's pride. My brother, sister, and I, every January 1st we get together, or January 2nd we come back. We're like,
Yeah.
we got to top that one. We got and
Yeah.
2023 was an epic year for us, and I never thought we could top it. But 24 was our finest, and so now as we're
That's
into
nice. Yeah.
25, I'm like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do that again?
Yeah.
But now, but we're building
Yeah.
another facility. We're going to have a cafe that opens as part of the expansion. We're going to have,
Yeah.
some other accounts that came on board in 24 are carrying forward in 25, and some new business that was built, created in 24, so starting in 25. So there's a lot of, we're starting stronger through the year, so we're hoping that it's going to be a bigger year. But um, and then COVID was like every day there was a new disaster of supply chain, of
Yeah.
labor
I know.
shortages. And so we learned through the COVID years that, like, don't let a disaster stop you, because you'll get through it. We
Okay.
got
Yeah.
through a lot of them, or every disaster that, we're still alive, so every disaster that was thrown in our face, we
Yeah.
got through, and we got through stronger. So there's this grit that we feel now that, like we're in the chocolate crisis right now. Chocolate is at a catastrophic level. It's
I know.
from 2023, it's trading 3 times higher, which is really,
Exactly. Yeah.
really increasing, our cost of chocolate. But, and someone asked me like 6 months ago, like, well, how are you handling this? I said, well, I don't know, we're just going to deal with it. They're like, well, how are you still,
Yeah.
calm about like your number one, thing you use, number one
Yeah. It's
ingredient?
so expensive.
It's getting, so much more. I said, I don't know. We just dealt with, we've dealt with paper issues, with packaging issues, with
Mhm.
mailing costs, with technology costs, with staffing. I mean, I said, we'll get through it. And I just, that level of confidence. I still don't know exactly how. I mean, we're
Yeah.
going to take a margin hit. We're going to do a minor price increase, and we're just going to, continue. We're trying to get more. We're pushing ourselves to try to get more efficient in the manufacturing process to lower the overhead. And, 365 days from now, we hope we made all the right
Yeah.
choices. But it's like that training
Yeah.
you get, like, we've been through this before,
Exactly.
it'll be fine.
Literally. Yeah, you built it from scratch, so you'll obviously know how to
Yeah.
scrape through any other issue too. And then if we spoke about if you weren't in the chocolate field in golf, but let's say if I would ask you a career other than chocolate, what would that be?
I love bourbon. One of the
Okay.
reasons one of the
Yeah.
reasons I love, and I love drinking it. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, of course. I love whiskey too. I
I love
just love whiskey a
cocktails.
lot. Yeah.
I love seeing it distilled. How you distill something and then it has to age for years. Other spirits
Correct.
you can pretty much drink the same day, but bourbon
Yeah.
has anywhere from a 3 to 20 year aging process, and so that to me is such a neat craft that I felt
Hmm.
like if I was doing anything else, it would still be in food beverage and it would probably be in spirits.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So I
Because I
want to
could
talk a little
probably
bit
play
more
golf for
about.
about
Sorry,
five
sorry. Go ahead.
days and
Yeah.
I'd go crazy. I love golf, but I can't. I don't
Yeah.
think I'm. I don't think I'm ready to golf.
So what are you saying? What would you what without 5 days you'd go crazy for?
If I had to stop doing what I'm doing right now, I'd probably play
Yeah.
golf for about 5 days, and then on
Yeah.
the sixth day, even though I still
Yeah.
love golf, I'd just be like, I'm done. I have to go back to do something.
Yeah. So I want to get back to chocolate health and future.
Mhm.
There's so much of emphasis that's going on with protein and protein infused chocolates. Do you have any plans to include and satisfy customers in that field as well? Protein infused chocolates.
At this point, no. So
Yeah.
there's not only that going. There's alternate sugars happening, and then now because of the cocoa crisis, there's a lot of
Yeah.
different
Like
recipes.
sugar free chocolates or like keto friendly chocolate, which I don't like and I don't believe in, but with all that fitness world and everything. What is your take on that?
I think there's a place for all of that, but it's not for us. And the
Okay.
reason, quite
Yeah.
frankly, is that at chocolate, we're about making a premium product with high quality ingredients. And at Bissingers,
Exactly. Yeah.
we're very much a luxury brand that's heavily focused on gift giving. And 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
you're not looking for the high protein or the low sugar, et cetera, et cetera. Those types of chocolates are much bigger when you have a brand that's all about self consumption.
Okay.
And although our customers that come into the store love buying Bissingers for themselves, but the other
Hmm.
half of the time they're buying it as gift giving. And so
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
because of that, it's our job is to make a premium, luxury
Okay.
chocolate gift. And so we stay, and we've never changed the chocolate recipe, chocolate in over 40 years. And at Bissingers, it's been
Yeah.
going on because chocolate has not been around, solid chocolate has not been around for 300 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Liquid chocolate has, drinking chocolate has, but solid chocolate
Okay.
is a
Yeah.
20th century invention. So for about 80 of the 100 years, the Bissinger's recipes never changed.
Wow. That's so nice. And what kind of special care do you take to make sure the recipe doesn't change? Whoever's changing, like the managers on the floor, and how do you make sure everything remains the same as it's been?
That's a great question. So the product, everything's handmade, and we go through about 4 different stages. So from batching to
Okay.
manufacturing to then finishing and then packaging. So those are kind of like
So
our
nice.
macro
Yeah.
overhauls. So at the batching level, we do a taste test. And then after the finishing level, we do a sensory test, sensory evaluation. So then,
Okay.
and then like we all love eating the product as it's being made. So like
Yeah.
I don't typically, I'm involved in the early batching process taste test, but I'm not the sole taste testers. There's the two chocolatiers are,
Hmm.
but like we all eat enough of our product to know if something changes.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So we have a lot of steps, a lot of quality steps throughout the process. And then the chocolate itself is made
Okay.
in 50,000 pound batches. And so whatever that batch
Wow.
consistency comes
Yeah.
out is going to be the same across the board. And 50,000 pounds of chocolate
Yeah.
could make over 100,000 pounds of finished product, because normally a caramel is a little bit less than, it's about 55, 60% caramel and about,
Okay. Yeah.
45, 50% chocolate. So figure 50,000 pounds of chocolate can make 110 to 120,000 pounds of caramels or truffles. And so because of that, we,
Yeah.
you don't taste test every day. You taste test when those big batches are being produced.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's very nice. I would love to taste every level. I love chocolate. So
It really is a fun part of the job.
yeah. I want to uh, I want to move to the entrepreneurial side of the discussion.
Mhm.
What would you advise any young entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs in the field of chocolate or any other field in terms of starting a business or scaling it? Your advice to uh, these folks?
That's a great question. I love being hands-on. Um,
Okay.
this is the most amount of time I've spent in my office today. Usually I go like 15 minutes and then I go check on one of our departments, whether I go into our
Okay.
warehouse or our production
Yeah.
floor. I've been walking outside every few hours to watch construction today.
Hmm.
And we've got a great team, but I can't tell you how many times I can look at something and find a better way to do it, a more efficient way to do it, or
Yeah.
and and so because of that, I think that we have gotten greater because my job is not, I don't have one primary job.
Yeah.
My job is to oversee and be in the business. I don't see how we could be to the volume, success of brand power in production we are today if our
Okay. Yeah.
factory was 2 hours away and I just had an office separately. To me, being in the business is so important. And I just think working with your team, if water spills on the floor, go
Hmm.
get a mop and clean it.
Yeah.
Like we have a sanitation team now, but I can't tell you how many times been in a situation where the sanitation team's down at the distribution center down the street and something's
Yeah.
chocolate, whatever it is. I just stop
Yeah.
what I'm doing and go get a
Yeah.
mop. And the team notices that. And,
So sweet. Yeah.
you work side by side with your team, it empowers them. And I think that from a management style, we're not order givers. We don't say, "Hey, go do this right now." We say, "Let's, we gotta get this done. How can I help?" And then they get it done. They take. So I think that now every industry is different. If we were,
Yeah.
if we were in the military, that's not how you'd run the military. Like, I mean,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
there's
Of course.
different linear things. But from the way we manufacture, I really like to be hands on. I really like to work alongside the team, and then I really like to take a look
Sure.
and just see how,
Yeah.
every day there's an opportunity to make better. Continuous improvement is paramount in what we do, and we don't want to become an automated manufacturer to lose the craft because every
Okay.
piece of candy is truly handmade. But there's some things like we want to take handmade candy and send it through an automatic boxing machine, for example.
Yeah.
We would rather have our team use their skill and craft on hand decorating truffles, not boxing a chocolate bar. So we put that level of advancement and automation in the facility.
That's very nice. And what would you advise to anyone starting this chocolate line? And you want to be entrepreneurs, want to get into the chocolate business of their life 2025.
There's a
Would you still advise them, or would you say it's too hard,
it,
because of all the expenses of
I would
chocolate
say
and
it's the
others?
toughest it's
Yeah,
ever been. I mean, not just
yeah,
chocolate. It's definitely the toughest it's ever been,
yeah,
for a lot of reasons. But I still think it's an incredibly powerful industry. It's a great industry, and if someone wants to
yeah.
get in, I would say, like, don't go raise a ton of capital and go buy a bunch of equipment. Start
Okay,
small.
sure.
There's a lot of handmade. You can go buy a little machine and hand dip truffles for $1,000 entry. And I think by
Okay,
doing that, and you being the chocolatier, and spending the $1,000 and hand dipping every truffle and hand decorating every truffle, do that until you literally can't stand anymore. Like until you can't, you have
yeah,
orders piling up and you can't handle it. Then go invest into the next machine,
sure.
into the next thing and the next thing, and go build it slowly. Because like I'm confident if we had an investor come in today and say, "Here's 10 million bucks, what should we
Yeah,
buy?" It just wouldn't feel as authentic. I go blow it on something and without,
yeah.
doing that 50-page research business plan that what my dad pressured me to do. I was like, "Oh, there's
Okay,
a $3 million machine there. I'm sure let's go
yeah.
buy it." You just lose so much of that. Not that
True.
investors are bad. It's you need them, but like you need capital. But I feel like when you have to justify every dollar spent on a craft chocolate company like we are, it goes a long way. And then when you get to the level, you know, you go make that next step. But I feel like you've got to really truly feel you've got to feel it in your body, the handcrafted
Sure.
nature of the
Yeah.
product, in order to truly appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you for such golden words because, like we spoke at this podcast a year and a half ago, and then love goals. I want to start an automated nutrition app based on the user's input, the foods they like, and some. But like you said, I don't have any capital yet. I don't have any other backup. It's just start. So I'm going to take all these words, implement it, and see how it goes. So thank you for all those golden
Yeah,
words.
no, I mean, I remember our first websites I built
Yeah.
myself, and I didn't know how HTML worked. I went to a
Yeah.
class on, and it was just like,
Yeah.
and then we created something, and eventually, now we have a web team. But sometimes, if we need to make a quick update, I still go do it myself because I,
That's so nice.
like I could
Yeah. See?
I can either pick up a phone and have a 10-minute call
Yeah.
and tell them exactly how I want to do it, or just do it in 5 minutes
Yeah.
myself. So, I still stay hands on everything, and I think that's
That's
so
nice. Yeah.
important. And I mean, that's just how I know how to do business. I'm sure there's some other I know, confidently know there's other really great ways to do it too.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for such golden words. So quick fire.
Mhm.
The first three questions you got to answer it without thinking too much. So whatever first comes to your mind.
Got it.
First chocolate that you've ever had when you were a kid.
Chocolate covered strawberry.
Oh, that's so nice. Okay. Milk chocolate versus dark chocolate.
Typically milk chocolate for me.
Yeah, I love milk chocolate too. Building a brand or perfecting the craft.
Hmm. I think they're hand in hand for us.
Okay.
I think building a brand is fun, but we started with perfecting the craft.
Perfecting the craft. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Would you go back 100 years to make chocolate, or would you go 100 years in the future to see how everything pertinent to chocolate kind of evolved?
I go back 100 years.
Nice. Yeah. So I have two more questions, and I would like you to go deep.
Mhm.
The biggest business myth that people from outside uh, believe it's completely false.
I for us, I
Yeah,
think
but
that,
pertinent to you. Yeah.
um, and this is from friends, from people I know, from everybody. People think that we can press a button and a chocolate bar comes out the other end,
Yeah.
and that's not necessarily untrue for a lot of other
Yeah.
operations. And of course, you have to have that level of automation to fulfill the, I don't know, 200,000 retail stores across the United States. I mean, there's a lot of brick and mortar out there. There's a lot
Sure.
of, you know, candy wraps and checkout stands, et cetera. But for us, we go through four major stages. And so like one sea salt caramel may take
Hmm.
12 people
That's a
involved,
lot.
from
Yeah.
cooking the
Mm.
caramel to slabbing it to cutting it to feeding it on the line to decorating it to dipping it to
I
packing
see.
it. So from that part, and it runs a lot slower than you think. It kind of, the lines run
Hmm.
slow, and from a, everyone thinks it's
Yeah.
big fast manufacturing, and some of the wrapping lines do, but everything is this. It's like you could play classical music in the background if you were filming the factory running. It's very in rhythm, it's very in sync, and it's very calm and slow. And I think that there's this conception of how we make product, and then we
Hmm.
bring someone into the production facility on a tour, and their
Okay.
mind is
Yeah.
blown because it's so completely
Yeah.
different than how it's all disconnected but connected at the same time. And it completely makes sense to us, and it's about as efficient as we can be from a craft side of things. But when you think of certain things, like for example, in a bakery, you have
Sure. Yeah.
a big silo of your flour, big mixing machines to mix it, and then some sort of like automated system to deposit it into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
into the bread machine because it's heavy, and then you have to sheet it and form it. So that's somewhat mostly automated, and then from there
Hmm.
it's extremely automated because ovens are extremely hot. Human beings can't be in those environments, and so
Yeah.
if you look at other food-based industries, they're so much more linear and automated than we are. But we take so many. There's so many people involved and so many steps, and it's, to us,
Hmm.
it's the perfect way to make chocolate. But for other people, they're like, I just can't believe, And I think
I
that's
know.
the
Yeah.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah. If we had a time machine, and if you went back, what one piece of advice would you give to the 25-year-old Dan?
Oh, that's a good one. The 25-year-old Dan. I lose sleep a lot. The business keeps me up. I always wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, and then try to go back to
Wow,
sleep. And
3 a.m. Okay, yeah.
yeah, but I leave my house at like 5:45, so it's not as bad as it sounds. I
Okay,
go at 6, but
yeah.
yeah, I usually three to four is I'm up thinking about something, and then I come back to it. I fall asleep at
Okay.
4. But I feel like um, and it was the pressure of making a mistake or getting something wrong always weighed on me so much. And I feel like as
Hmm.
we look back, um, you know, mistakes happen and they're learning experience. And as long as you don't do anything
Yeah.
harmful to the customer, that I don't want to say take it less seriously. I don't want to say I should care less, but I should put
Yeah.
as much pressure on myself.
Yeah, that's very
And I
nice.
think that's been something that, the only time I truly slept every night, as funny as it sounds, was in the heart of COVID. And
Okay.
it was because
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't control anything. All I can do
Okay.
is show up
Yeah.
to work the next day, see who
Yeah.
also shows up, and make whatever we can with the team we
Yeah.
had. And so it was like the only time where all the pressure of the world went away. And I just said, like, I hope we make it. But I have
Yeah.
nothing to
Yeah.
do with it. I couldn't go out and
Yeah.
sell because we didn't know who to sell to. I couldn't, it was like
Yeah.
just for that 6 months in 2020. And then of course, 21 and 22 were very busy for us, but that was the only time I really just slept every day till 6 a.m. Otherwise
Yeah.
it's been my same routine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very nice piece of advice. Because so many times when you're very passionate, you end up taking everything so seriously, and then you screw up the sleep and the recovery and rest and everything. So, what is one of the hardest part of your life? Not just the business, but in general.
I think just with time management, I'm married, I have 3 kids,
Yeah.
we have this family business. Um, you can't do everything. So if one of the things that I have this personal goal for ourselves and our staff that everybody leaves
Yeah.
at 4:30 p.m. no matter what,
Oh,
and
that's so sweet. Yeah.
99% of the time we adhere to that. So there is a catch though.
Yeah.
If we're
Yeah.
busy, we come in early. So there are
Okay.
times we get there at 3 or 4 in the morning because we're
4
busy.
a.m. in the morning.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, not all the time, but at least 25 days a
Yeah.
year, 30 days of the year.
Nice. Yeah.
But we do that so we can all get out of there at 4:30. And
4:30.
but if I have to work weekends, which we work, 10 Saturdays a year or so, it's taking
Okay.
time away from my wife and kids. And so,
Yeah.
and then, I don't get to see my friends as much. So, or God forbid, I don't get to play golf as much, which, so there's
Yeah.
always a give and take. And
Okay.
a lot of people and they're in a 9 to 5 job at 5 p.m., it's it. They don't think about work
Okay.
or have the
Yeah.
responsibility of work until 9 a.m. the next day. For
Yeah.
me, we have retail stores that are open till 7.
Hmm.
We have an online business that doesn't stop. We have emails that come in. So really, I don't turn it off until 7, even though I'm at home.
I see.
And then
Yeah.
there's a little bit of
You
so I
keep
think,
checking emails on the weekends,
yeah,
on the
exactly.
on
So
holidays.
I think time management's
Yeah.
always, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you're always going to have
Yeah.
less time and have to give more time to even if you're not physically there. Like I
Hmm.
have never gone on a vacation and gone,
No shit. Like
I mean, I go on
never.
vacation,
Like
but I've never gone
I
on
mean, it's been a long
vacation
time, obviously.
and
Yeah.
not checked the email.
Yeah.
I'm always
That's
still
right.
connected to the business. And
Yeah, that's right.
like we went to my wife and I went out of the one time and we only had no cell reception. And I still found a way to,
Yeah.
sneak in a couple of, and it
Yeah.
just, so there's that disconnect that never happens.
Yeah.
But uh,
Okay.
I don't regret it. It just is, it's just something you have to know as a business owner.
Yeah. And something that you truly enjoy. So it
Yeah,
doesn't feel too pressurizing or like hard work because you love it.
it's true. Some days
And
are,
what's your Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
some days are definitely longer than others.
Sorry. Yeah.
We always get through it. We've done it so many times. It's kind of like, you're in the thick of it.
Mhm.
You just push harder to get out.
Yeah. And what is your hardest? Oh, sorry. What is your proudest slash happiest moment ever?
Business wise, Bissingers was, not only buying Bissingers, but getting,
Yeah.
we felt that
Acquiring it
at the
probably.
yeah, going through the
Hmm.
acquisition, but we felt that at the 3-year mark, was really important to us. One of the things my parents said to me when I brought this up that I wanted to buy Bissingers was that they were excited and nervous at the same time. And so they were excited because they knew
Okay.
Bissingers and it was an
Yeah.
exciting opportunity. But then they kind of took a pause and they said, listen, the business that we're in is working. It's profitable. It's growing.
Yeah.
You're busy. You can destroy both at the same
Yeah.
time. You could, not only upset Bissingers, but you can upset chocolate. So the
Okay.
risk is there. And, I thought about it for 5 minutes. Then I said, no, I still want to do it.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
3 years into it, we really felt that because, when a local competitor buys another company, there's always this customer apprehension that, oh, they're going to change it
Yeah.
or they're going to shut it down or they're going to, SKU rationalization. And we didn't do that. And so
Yeah.
we got to the 3 year mark and both companies were really healthy. And, now we're in the 5 year mark, the two, they're very healthy
Yeah.
today. And I felt that that first benchmark was that 3 year mark. And that felt great. I,
Yeah.
and at first I always say there's the Bissinger's customer and trying to understand what they want. Now we feel
Sure. Yeah.
we really understand them. At first, we were nervously guessing and using,
Yeah.
existing data and existing profiles that we had. But, there's something about the psyche where if we wanted to know who the Bissinger's customer was, we had to go back to the catalog and back to the
Go back.
drawing
Yeah.
board. Now I can kind of come up with it in my mind. So 3 years into
Wow.
Bissingers, I
So nice.
really
Yeah.
felt that we succeeded in our path. And from there on out, it's going to be all about just growth and innovation instead of, the first 2 years is like, please don't screw this up. Please don't screw this up. But then by year 3, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I think we got it. We really,
Got it. Yeah.
got our hands around this.
Yes. So nice. And what about personal? Anything personal life in your personal life? Sorry.
Being married and having kids, greatest thing in the world for me.
Nice. And is your dad proud of you for all the achievements you've done from
Yeah,
2004 till today?
yeah,
Yeah, that's so
I
nice.
think so. I mean, and my parents they still come in every day,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
doing. They get the opportunity to do less and less now with the business
Yeah.
side because we handle more and more, and so that, and the business is doing well. And I mean, even just the other day, there's a big opportunity that we're working on right now, and
Mhm.
who's the first person I go to and talk about is my dad.
Is your
He's
dad?
like
Yeah.
the ultimate, the guy in the
Yeah.
corner office with 45 years
Yeah.
of experience, and so.
Yeah.
I always admit that I don't have all the right answers, but he's this incredible sounding board. So,
Yeah.
if he's not in the daily operations anymore, he certainly hears about what's going on and gives advice.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. Me too. I think I don't know if it's a son thing because I always ask my dad for every small thing. Like, I'm planning to do this. What do you think?
For sure.
Obviously, like you said, there's 10 other questions that come. Are you sure about this, that, blah blah blah? So what's next for Bissingers and chocolate going forward? What are your next goals from here?
That's a great question. We're looking at a couple things right now, all at one time. We're looking at, do we increase retail? That's one area. Uh, in the short term, this expansion is going to be finished this summer, and we have a new
Mhm.
cafe and speakeasy bar that's opening.
Nice.
And so
Yeah.
that we're really excited for. We're in the final stages of planning and getting that open, and then we're thinking, what does 2026 look like? Do we do another cafe style? Do we another retail
Hmm.
chocolate store? Do we merge the two together? So we're really looking to see what the coffee side of the business and bar side of the business, does this year, so we can decide what the next pivot is going to be. We're always trying to find great wholesale accounts to be in. We're always trying to find more ways to increase revenue online, and we're always trying to find ways to increase existing foot traffic in our own retail stores. That's an everyday. Um,
Hmm.
but do I think another acquisition will happen in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Yes. Um,
Woohoo!
and it's going
I'm
to be
excited for that.
it'll be like
Yeah.
purposeful. Like we'll make an acquisition on a certain part of the
Yeah.
country because we want that distribution or something. So I think
Yeah.
it's not going to just buy to buy. I think there's going to be some, strategic reasons for an acquisition. But certainly, I think that we definitely have an appetite to keep growing the business. And I think that now that it's getting to a certain level, we have to make bigger jumps and bigger leaps.
Yeah. It's so inspiring to know, and it's so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time and coming onto my show again.
My
It was
pleasure.
such a
Thanks for
pleasure
having me.
talking to you. I've learned so much and so inspiring, and I would love to do a part two with you to go more in depth about the business and everything,
Oh,
and
perfect.
probably like another masterclass for entrepreneurs.
No, I'd love to.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and for everything.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Active Hour podcast. We hope you loved the episode. If you did, please give us some love in the reviews. Guess what? No ChatGPT was used in the making of this episode. Until next time, bye.